In February of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. They were young, skilled, and well prepared for the harsh winter conditions. But within days, something happened in the mountains that would become one of the most disturbing and mysterious incidents in modern history. Weeks later, rescue teams would discover their abandoned campsite. Their tent had been cut open from the inside. Their footprints led away from the shelter barefoot. And the bodies of the hikers would eventually be found scattered across the snow. Some had died from exposure. Others had suffered horrifying injuries, broken ribs, crushed skulls. One victim was missing her tongue. To this day, the truth behind the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in history. The group was led by a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. He was an experienced mountaineer, and the expedition he planned was considered challenging but achievable. The goal was to cross a remote mountain known as Avalanche, deep in the northern Ural Mountains. The name of the mountain came from the language of the local Mansi people. It meant something unsettling, Mountain of the Dead. There were 10 members in the expedition when they first began the journey, but early into the trip, one hiker became ill and turned back. That decision may have saved his life. The remaining 9 continued into the wilderness. None of them would return. In late January of 1959, the hikers began their trek across the snow-covered mountains. The temperatures were brutal, sometimes dropping below -30 degrees Celsius. But the hikers were well-trained. They kept journals, took photographs, and documented their progress through the harsh terrain. Everything appeared normal. There was no sign of danger. On February 1st, the group began climbing the slope of Avalanche, but something forced them to stop and make camp on the exposed mountainside instead of moving to a safer forested area below. That night would be their last. When the hikers failed to return on schedule, concern began to grow. Days passed, then weeks. Finally, a search and rescue operation was launched. Volunteers, soldiers, and investigators began combing through the snow-covered mountains. What they found shocked everyone. The group's tent had been discovered partially buried in the snow. But something about it was deeply disturbing. The tent had been cut open from the inside, as if the hikers had desperately tried to escape, and they had left almost everything behind: boots, clothes, supplies. Even though the temperature outside was deadly, investigators soon discovered footprints leading away from the campsite, but the tracks revealed something strange. The hikers had left the tent calmly. Not running. Some of the footprints showed bare feet, others showed only socks. In temperatures that could kill a person within minutes, the trail of footprints led toward a forest nearly 1 kilometer away. When searchers reached the trees, they discovered the first 2 bodies. The hikers were lying beneath a large cedar tree. They were barefoot and dressed only in thin underwear. Nearby, investigators found the remains of a small fire. It appeared the hikers had desperately tried to stay warm. Over the next several weeks, more bodies were discovered across the mountainside. 3 hikers were found closer to the campsite, as if they had tried to return to the tent but collapsed in the snow. But the final 4 victims were discovered months later, buried beneath deep snow in a nearby ravine, and their injuries were unlike anything investigators expected. One hiker had severe skull fractures. Another had crushed ribs so powerful they were compared to injuries from a car crash. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery involved one of the female hikers. Her tongue was missing. So were parts of her lips and facial tissue. And strangely, there were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of another group, no clear explanation for the injuries. The official Soviet investigation struggled to explain what had happened. There were many theories. Some believed the hikers had been caught in an avalanche. Others suggested a secret military weapons test might have frightened them into fleeing the tent. Local villagers even reported seeing mysterious glowing lights in the sky around the time of the tragedy. But none of these explanations fully matched the evidence. Years later, some researchers proposed that powerful winds in the mountains may have created terrifying sound frequencies that caused panic among the hikers. Others believe a rare type of avalanche forced them to escape their tent quickly, but many questions still remain unanswered. Over the decades, the Dyatlov Pass incident has inspired countless theories. Some believe it was a military experiment gone wrong. Others believe the hikers encountered unknown natural forces. And of course, there are even more extreme theories involving secret government cover-ups or unexplained phenomena. But the truth is, no single explanation has ever fully solved the mystery. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation. After reviewing the evidence, they concluded that a rare type of avalanche likely forced the hikers to cut their way out of the tent and flee into the freezing darkness. But many experts still question this conclusion, because several key details remain unexplained. Why did the hikers run so far from the tent? Why were some injuries so severe? And why were they so poorly dressed for the deadly cold? More than 60 years later, the tragedy still fascinates people around the world, because the story is as chilling as it is mysterious. 9 skilled hikers, an abandoned tent sliced open from the inside, footprints leading barefoot into the snow, and bodies scattered across a frozen mountainside. Whatever happened that night on the slopes of Khalat Syekhl, the 9 hikers never made it home, and the full truth behind the Dyatlov Pass mystery may never be known. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe for more incredible mysteries and true stories from history.